Welcome to We Speak Tangent podcast, where we talk to neurodivergent entrepreneurs. Welcome, folks, to this week's edition of We Speak Tangents. We're not going to do the usual opening link because, as you will see, James is not here. We still can, but it won't have very much effect. I'm Michael.
I'm Kat.
Oh, Amelia.
There you go.
Horses for courses. That'll work. Right. Okay.
It's almost like she's been watching all of them.
I know, yeah. And as you will have gathered, we are not in the Goldfish Bowl this week, the podcast studio in Hoyk. We are, Kat's found a green screen, Amelia's found a Wetherspoons, and I'm in my house.
Oh, Wetherspoons. Excuse
Michael!
me. You would not get the junk behind me in a Wetherspoons.
Depends on the Wetherspoons.
Yeah, true. It reminds me of TV, actually, a little bit.
What does?
Your house.
It's beautiful in every way. It's just full of stuff.
Have you been TV in Edinburgh?
No.
It's this Edinburgh Uni Student Union, and it used to be a bank, and it's like there's a really nice bit like where you can go into like its little breakout rooms, and it's because it used to be a library.
Oh, okay. I mean, I am in front of a
like loads of antique books and gorgeousness in there.
Yeah, there's a few antique books. Actually, you sat on one on the iPad, but yeah. Anyhow, sorry.
I have one very special book. I use it as a test.
Yeah. It's means so much to me. It's high enough for my iPad. Yeah.
Very special, but I don't read it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just look at it. Yeah. So this week we are discussing something, well, a few things, not just one thing, that has come up in podcasts of old, which I didn't think we would be discussing as openly. So this is, well, we're going to cover topics such as making a life or making a world for yourself and questioning your neurodiversity. So we interviewed
Few people.
yeah, well, we've interviewed a lot of people, but this has come up in both, I think, Dawn's and Kirsty's episode, where it's probably easier to discuss questioning neurodiversity first before making a life. But
I'd be interested as well because Michael, you were diagnosed quite young. Like, have you ever questioned it?
Yes, frequently. That there was a point when I was in so I was in therapy for a long time, and I only stopped because they would give me temps. Like it wouldn't be the same person. It would be lots of different people, and it was like, have you read the file? It's like, no, we just want to know how you are. And I was like, no, if you haven't read the file, like I'm not going to sit for an hour a month and explain my entire life. So there was a point where I had said to the one constant therapist, I was like, am I neurodivergent? Like, can I not just be like a little bit? Like, am I fully like? Can I not just be like a grumpy old
Am I
person?
qualified?
Yeah,
Age was that? Out of curiosity. Or ages. That's specific.
I was 12 and 3/4. No, I think 17, 18.
Okay.
Because purely because actually it wasn't because anything was I was questioning anything. As anybody will tell you, the support changes from young person to slightly less younger person, and you're sort of an island unto yourself. You're just like, oh, okay, I've got to deal with this now. Whereas specialists are just like, yes, it's fine. Like you have this, and that's fine. So yeah, I have questioned it.
Yeah.
And I think my family questioned it to a point. They were like, does he get less neurodivergent if he gets older? When he has bills to pay, does he become neurotypical? I mean, what is that thing there? So yeah,
Do you think that's like sorry to cut in, but like,
no.
do you think that's because there's not much information? And especially we're similar ages, aren't we? So way back then, there definitely wasn't as much
It
information.
did make me feel old,
Yeah.
guys. Carry on.
But you know what I mean? Like it's. Do you think that's part of it being that it's not a well-known? It's like I don't know. The words are there.
No, for
You know
me,
what I mean?
The actually autistic movement was relatively recent.
yeah, I'll save you at
Always
this
brought up
point. Yeah,
issues.
I'll save you at this point. For me, it was the opposite. For me, it was, and it's something that I think Kat and I have discussed socially, and I think Amelia and I a little bit, which is how much of me is neurodivergent and how
Mm.
much of me is me. Is there a thing where I'm hiding behind the diagnosis? Am I clinically depressed or am I like neurodivergent 1,000? I mean, how much of it is me and how much of it is somebody saying like, we think you have this? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but that's just
I think
natural.
everyone is a unique intersectional mix.
Mm,
So like, I personally can't unpick my ADHD from my CPTSD from everything else. Like it's all just something that I both have to work with, but also need to work around, if that makes sense. It's like,
Mm.
but it's both the framework that I live in and also the core of my being. It's just
Yeah. Yeah, I get it, and I get it. Like, what defines you? Because as well, like I find it interesting because, like, up until really like 6 months ago, ish, I suspected that I was ADHD. Like, I'm a little, and especially after having worked with Rachel from the
mm,
bakery, I was at the bakery. Maybe it was about just over a year ago, and I commented on like my pencil's really loud, and I said, "Sorry, this pencil's really loud," and she was like, "Are you neurodivergent?" And I was like, "I don't know." Like, so it's interesting.
I love how that was the gateway.
mm,
That is so Rachel. That is
I remember,
so like.
yeah, Rachel said that it's not something that a neurotypical would necessarily notice.
I mean, it isn't, but it's such an innocent, nice gateway. Like, I'm really sorry,
Yeah,
my pencil is like stereo today. Like, Rachel's like,
yeah,
are you? Like,
yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, so for me, it's interesting because I've always lived I've always lived my life, but and I've not necessarily noticed it because I think as well, like once I can now spot it in my family members, and it's like, oh, there's a reason why we're all a bit weird. That probably is it. Like, so it's interesting. I am still questioning it, but then I'm questioning it because it's a kind of a new thing for me.
yeah, I think for me it was because and this is from speaking to people in the podcast, they had that time where it's like, am I? And I didn't. Now,
Uh,
do I want that time? I'm not sure I do. It's like the boarding school thing. So when I left boarding school, I assumed, sorry, this is the check your privilege thing. When I left the school that was set up to help educationally fragile folks by putting them on a mountaintop and assessing what they could do, and that, when I left that and I went to study photography at a local college because there wasn't a step change from boarding school to what after boarding school. There was, I think, Elmwood, which is an agricultural college, but I wasn't interested in that. So the remedy was I left, and then I went back into actual Dumfries College, and it was the worst thing because I was like, oh my God, like you're not in a class with four people and two learning assistants, and you're not.
yeah,
Oh, you're neurotypical. How terrible. But it's that thing of rather than teaching, and yes, it's specific to the teachers we had at the time, and everything changes. Blah 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 blah. Blah. But then it was, have you read this book? And I was like, no, I want to be taught these things because I didn't have that because I didn't have that time
mm,
to go because I was diagnosed in hospital and then I was re-diagnosed before I got to boarding school. So I didn't have that time that almost every guest that we've had has
mm,
said, like, I wasn't sure, and I was, do I go for the test? And do I, how much of it is me? Am I a little bit neurodivergent? Am
mm,
I a lot? And then affirmations and being nervous about the test and taking the thing. None of that. So for me, it's part survivor's guilt, but it's also part how much how much of my life is me rather than a specialist or a family member or a work colleague going, oh no, 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 no. He's not overly rude and, ridiculously grumpy in meetings. It's just how it's this piece of paper. This is in order to communicate with Michael effectively, read this. So yeah, is it a smokescreen? Am I hiding behind it? I mean, I'm definitely neurodivergent. I mean, there's no question, but it's a sliding scale of am I very neurodivergent every day? No.
Yeah, but then I
Um,
suppose is that like that's then when it comes into the definition of neurodivergent and how it looks different for everyone.
mm,
Yeah, I
very
think
much so.
there's that kind of distinction between the medical model of like you suffer from versus the social model of no, it's how I look at the world. And even if I'm having a really good day where I'm not struggling with anything,
Mm,
I still am looking at the world through my ADHD, autism,
Mm.
ED, whatever lens. Um, and that's just how you experience the world. But and everyone is unique because, most of those DSM categories also have several criteria, and you don't have to have all of the criteria to meet the diagnosis. So everyone is different,
Yeah.
yeah,
even
for
if
me,
you only
yeah.
have one diagnosis, you know what I mean?
For me, I'm constantly reminded if anybody comes up and talks to me that I ask questions as if I'm in a
Oh,
board meeting, and
I
it's
thought
just like
that's it. I'm not that I
no,
don't
no, but like,
people.
no, but yeah, well, there is a bit of that, but I mean, somebody recently said to me, "You could be an influencer." I was like, "What?" But no, I mean, I ask questions as if I'm in a board meeting. So there was a situation where I was having a fairly non-ND day. Like I slept really well and I wasn't thinking about things in like a bullseye thing. And I was sitting outside waiting to go to work and somebody came up and started talking to me and it was the sort of age-old, how did you get in the chair thing. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll try and answer that. And then, as if I can be bothered, because that's a sliding scale of,
For
well,
your job.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's like, yeah, well, yeah, I got
When
I
I
got
do
out of bed and yeah, I got out of bed and transferred into the
me,
chair.
Rachel.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, sorry. You
Your
mean yeah,
downtime, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
You're not
yeah.
here to educate
You
people.
mean you mean what life? You mean what life affirming event made me wheelchair bound? Okay, great. But there was a point where the guy was like, "Have you seen my Rolex?" And rather than go, "Wow," I went, "Is it a real Rolex though? Like, is it? Is
Where's
it
the
though?"
authenticity or like, the
Yeah, I
authentication
had a
bit?
similar experience when
Yeah.
somebody presented me with some Gucci shoes and was like, "These are Gucci shoes, they're 2 grand," and I was like, "Yeah, I don't really like them."
You know Gucci though. This is a tangent, but it's the name of the show.
I
Um,
know of Gucci,
yeah,
Amelia.
but
Yeah.
like I didn't realize this, but those high end brands
Hmm.
have a high end brand, but they also have like a lower
Yeah.
brand.
Yeah, Gucci is very popular.
But like that would be in the outlet mall. So actually, people saying they've got Gucci shoes, they could have got them from the outlet mall for like 50 quid or whatever. And it's like, mm. Like Ralph,
Yeah.
the polo is Ralph
Oh,
Lauren.
Ralph Lauren, yeah.
Yeah, just because it's Ralph Lauren doesn't mean that you spent thousands of pounds on it.
Yeah.
But it is that thing. I'm overly like my communication is like if I'm in a board meeting. Like I don't
We
do,
all have scripts that we get used to though, and like you
Mm.
get more used to being in certain situations. Um,
but it's also the tires thing. The tires thing was a wonderful example. There was just a
you
wonderful,
telling the tire story?
Yeah, you're gonna have to
yeah, right. So
explain.
we were we were uh we were doing a sort of
We were at the beach
community. Yeah, it was like a
on one of
community
the walks
trip.
on
It
which
was
you were all welcome to join us.
yes. Um, and Kat was like, "You have a flat tire," and I was like, "What? What? No, I have somebody that." And Kat's like, "No, like the tire is very flat." And we were with a previous guest. We were with Rachel. Um, and I was like, "Well, there's a tire pump in the car," and my default position was, I have a team of people that whose job it is to make sure that I am fully compos mentis and my chair is workable. And I just had Cat on my shoulder going, "No, your tire is, I mean, there is no air in the tire." So we went to get the
I think
foot
I believe
pump.
my exact words were, "Your wheel is not wheel shaped."
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, there's a hint there.
yeah, yeah. But I didn't. I was like, I think it's a bit of a flat spot, but obviously my team haven't, So the pump was extracted from the car, and there was a situation where lovely Rachel, I mean, it was standing, and it's like it's an overcast day, but you look up and it's like sunlight on one end and a black cloud coming over, and Rachel foot pumping away to try and get my chair to be full of air, and it's not filling up. It's just not. And I'm just like, okay, well, we'll go down to the end and then back up. Like, it got me here, I'm fine. And then Cat just couldn't. Cat was wonderful, but Cat just like, no, it's still flat. It's flat. Like, we are not like. So it's like three people stimming because I'm going, it's flat as well. Because I know. So we ended up going to home base. And I said to Rachel, like, oh God, this is like full on manning. I don't like this at all. And Rachel's like, what do you mean? I'm like, God, it's home base. I know nothing about anything in it. And it's like people with trailers going to get Christmas trees and bits of wood. Um, and Kat's like, oh, well, they'll sell like a pump or an electric pump.
Mm.
Anyway, so we went to home base and we did this sort of cursory walking around and
They don't have a car
they
section.
don't. Like they have like a 200 quid like tool
Unit.
bench thing that's all stainless steel metal,
Very
but do they
nice.
have a thing? So I lost the will to live and my French car was beeping because Nico was with us. So I was like,
Yes,
I'll
the
go
car
back to the
objected to you leaving. It was like,
yeah, because the wonderful people at Renault had taken away the stickers on the alarm, so it was like if somebody
was
walked past
reacting.
incorrectly, it was reacting. So then Kat was like, right,
Like
we're going
Reggie.
into Argos. We're going into Argos.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting in the car. And it was Rachel's all about budgeting. So Rachel's like, well, you can get like a non-electric one. And Kat's like, no, I think an electric one is the thing to do because then Michael can do it himself. I'm like, okay, great. So they produce this thing. And then we're sort of outside, and Kat's like, right, do you know? Oh God, I love Kat. It's so funny. Kat's like, do you know how much air is meant to be in your tires? No, no, I don't. Like, I have a team. What bit of I have a team of people? Like, and Kat's bending down. It's like 90. Because no, no. Because then Kat said, well, how much air do you want? And I was like, I don't know, 20. I don't know, 20, 25, 20. So Kat puts the electric thing in, and it read 0. There was no air
Right.
in the tire. And then Kat was like, and I'm still sitting in the chair, obs. I'm still like, and Kat's looking at the chair, and it says on the wheel like pump up to between 80 and
85 and
100,
100.
85 and 100. So yeah, so I'm sitting there. Kat's got the electric pump.
One was on 0 and the other one was on
Or was
90.
on,
That was the
yeah,
starting position.
On 90 or 19?
19. So very flat. Both of them very flat.
So flat.
and I've said for years that and this is all business related. This is problem solving. I said for years that my shoulder is going because I'm pushing. It's because there's no air in the tires.
Yeah, sure. I
So,
was going to say, surely you would have felt that. But I suppose if you've never known what it's like to have them full.
no. So yeah, so picture the scene. Rachel's at my car with Nico because the French car's going off. Cat has got an electric pump on my wheel, and as it's pumping up, like thing,
Mm.
this lady comes past us and goes, "Do you know, like, if you can't think of anything decent to say, like, please don't." This one was like, "It would
Very
be
flat.
easy. It would be easy just blowing through a straw," and I'm like, "Thank you. Okay, good.
Well, that's
Right.
saying like you should have seen the foot pump
Yeah."
left.
Like, but also, what does she mean by that? Like,
I have no idea.
that's not helpful in any
Like,
situation.
people commenting on stuff just randomly is like, I mean, yeah.
So I mean, and then it was like once the tires were fully airified, Cat was like, "Do
Then
you?"
we Formula One around Mark's.
Yeah,
Yeah, then you're off.
you went into M&S, and I was like, "I know a lot more about M&S than I do about Homebase." So yeah, but it's that thing of, but it's that I had a very like anxiety-ridden, embarrassed smile on my face because I had to admit that not only one person was right, but two people were right, and it's sorted and done. So
Mm.
we've just done a New Year's resolution thing, and I think I've just said about
Pretty much lost
universe.
now.
Yeah, but I also had to explain to my team when I got home, I was like, this is an electric tire pump. There was no air in my
Yeah.
tires. But no, look, it's all it's problem solving, and it's something that I wouldn't have been able to um think about or do, but it's the stress thing. It's like how to make this less. But yeah, g
I
going
think
back to it. Yeah,
having
sorry.
help
Mm,
conversation there also.
It's the
absolutely.
what would you say?
A receiving help conversation.
Yeah.
Because
How
I
about
think you
yeah.
were very, very uncomfortable in that situation, and I am also very uncomfortable when receiving
No,
help.
but
So
no, but I think you said I was like Kat said, has nobody mentioned to you that you have flat tires? And I said, well, that's society. Nobody asks any questions anymore. But Kat's like, well, but your wheel isn't wheel shaped. So there was this whole thing, and
Yeah.
we ended up just buying quiches and going like, lovely to see you, bye, like stress eating. Um,
Anyway, well,
but
this is the shape it should have been.
yeah,
Just to give you an
love it.
example, Michael.
A wheel-shaped
So
food
you could
oh,
relate to
yes.
it, because
to
obviously,
child.
I had to have like an anxiety nap. That was like of all the things I expected to happen, that wasn't it. But yeah, it's um
We went for tea as well. It was
oh, it was
nice.
marvelous. Yeah, it was great. But I
Yeah,
was just like, I'm
yeah.
pushing and my wheels are actually going. But yeah, it's yeah,
I'm surprised you didn't go into like the tea shop and just like straight to the back wall.
Straight,
Like,
yeah,
I'll never
straight to the front door out the outdoor.
recalibrate yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
but it didn't click until I put my brakes on and I was like, it went through the tire. Like I'm stopping. This is marvelous. But no, it's problem solving, and that's a business
Yeah.
thing, or that's a friendship thing, um, or that's a decent
Life
argument.
thing.
Yeah, life thing, or that's a decent argument for having assistance. Not that Kat or Rachel was
I'm
my
actually, I
assistants.
mean, thinking about that's Willow's face, by the way.
Yeah.
Thinking about problem solving, like I'm lucky in that I did, I'm a scientist,
Mm,
because a lot of undergraduate science and even some of school science, like at higher and advanced higher, is problem solving,
Yeah.
looking at things and working things out. And especially, when I was doing my PhD and stuff, it is, in fact, it was before then, but the first time somebody says to you, well, you are currently the expert in this, so you need to work it out.
Mm.
And like just the freedom of that, but also the empowerment of that. And
But then do you think that has to then be like you are the expert in your own life?
100%.
Kind of then divulges us onto like you building your life and being the expert of it. So
mm,
you then know to problem solve and how to problem solve your problems the best.
I think, like I'm very passionate about like mental health and all that kind of stuff. And certainly there's a movement there that, the people who are an expert in how their physical and
mm,
mental issues, disabilities, nuances, whatever
Mm.
we like to call them, they all intersect with each other. And it might be that someone's an expert in one of them, but they don't know how that interacts with everything else you've got going on until they get to know you.
mm. It's also an argument for using the skills that you have,
Mm.
and it's also a bigger argument for
Learning new stuff.
investing, yeah, investing in yourself. And because if that had been a hand or foot pump, I would have been there for ages. And
Yeah.
actually, it's the well, God bless. I mean, Rachel, but I mean, I would have been there for like
Mm.
days. But it was actually Kat going, no, I think it needs to be this because then um yeah, then I can. So I mean, if you see me in a car park or outside a car, like I won't need to take my car to a thing to actually, because it's the same mechanism, it's the same thing.
Mm.
But yeah, it's that proper, because I mean, there will be people in wheelchairs that go, but your chair is part of you. How could you not know? No. My chair is part of me, but it's a piece of equipment. It's an outdoory thing.
Yeah.
And that could be something as simple as I haven't got over the fact that I'm sitting down full time, so I'm just using it as an appliance or a tool. Um, but yeah, there are people where that's part of their daily routine. I'm not one of those people.
It's
I
also
might
like
be
you don't know
now.
what you don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't
So
know they're meant to be at a certain PSI. And also as well, because Rachel told me on when we had our meeting on Monday, I was like, but surely that when you got the chair, there should have been like an instruction
that's not even the
something.
worst of it. No, that's not even the worst of it. Amelia, it says on the side of the entire how much it should be. It's not even
Yeah.
in a manual. It
Like the
says
car
on the
type.
side of the actual
But
thing.
Michael, at what point in the day are you going like that? Like,
True.
when are you going to
No,
see it? And
no.
if you don't know
When you
these things,
feel
then you're
something
never going to know them. But then
Yeah.
that's all about it.
Mm.
It is the learning curve, and it just goes to show that um like everyone's, you think that people have their things because from an outside point of view, you'd assuming being the keyword there, that you would know to do that.
Mm.
But it just
I
shows
would
you
as
you
well.
don't necessarily have to know everything, and it's
I know,
okay to then learn.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was, yeah. I mean,
and I think that's the joy of connection as well,
mm,
because you do learn what you don't know when you see it in other people.
Yeah.
but also that's a business support thing as well. I mean, that was
Yes,
a
business coaches
wonderful,
are very helpful,
yeah.
and
But
personal
that,
coaches are also very helpful.
yeah. But that is, I mean, that is an example that happened outside of home base, M&S, and um other shops are available. But I mean, if you don't know what you don't know, but the whole point is that for me the support there was Kat. It was like the peer-to-peer. I mean, Rachel was marvelous, and I think Kat and Rachel got to the point at the same time, but Kat was like, no, we need to do this now. um, so yeah, it for me it was an example of peer-to-peer. But at the same time, if that was a business, there are people out there with ideas, and there are people out there that want to do something, but don't feel as if they can do it themselves, which is
Mm.
why, because of conversations that Rachel has had initially, and we're all having in our community now, there is a process of putting people in touch. Everybody that you've met on
There's
this
no need
podcast,
by yourself.
yeah, everybody you've met on this podcast is probably going through the same,
Can't do
probably with
things.
the exception of one or two, but they're all going through the same process of accessing the correct support that works for them. And actually, what
Yeah.
this podcast has taught people, whether you are neurodivergent or not, and if you are, wonderful, but there is support there for you. It's like what we said in previous podcasts. There is technology. If you're not very good at writing a form, there is an app for that that Amelia should be the national spokesperson for. That didn't exist a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. So things are changing all the time, but it's the
Yeah.
accepting the support thing that is probably the biggest hurdle
Mm.
for
And I
people.
think it's also like the finding what support works for you. And
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
this is also where we need to make the most of it because like we're in 2024, we're not in the 1900s. We have
Well,
YouTube.
technically, we're in 2025 when this goes out, unless we're going to put this in 2024.
We haven't decided yet. Could
Oh,
be.
okay.
This will be 2025.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
cut that back in. We're
Yeah,
in
we're in 2025.
2025.
Yeah, sorry, my brain was slow for a minute. But like there's so much you can learn, neurotypical, neurodivergent, whatever. But
Mm.
YouTube and like TikTok and the
Hmm.
resources of the internet, chat GPT, like
Have
I
you
like
have you
love.
seen Dad YouTube?
Add YouTube.
Dad, Dad YouTube, and
Oh
where
no.
people are just putting and like, loads of threads where it's just like, what advice would you have loved to have,
Oh
like how to
yeah,
beds or like fold clothes or
yeah.
Mm.
tap.
Is
There's
it like that kid with the folded box that's like, he loves to fold clothes now? Bang, bang, bang. Like, is that not that? You not seen that?
No,
No?
I haven't seen that.
no,
But
this
like
is like people that are like, this is the things that I teach my kids. If you
yeah,
did to taught you these things, then
Mm.
yeah. Because that's also it. There's so much stuff that we don't learn in school, like we're saying
Mm.
in
Mm.
Kirsty's interview, like the I actually don't think we touched on it. Well, you guys touched on it in the interview, but like taxing and doing tax returns, stuff that we don't learn in school, and we know that we should now know as entrepreneurs and business owners.
Or
Yeah, starting
Stevens,
in schools.
communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, communication, being
Mm.
I
able
think
to actually
everyone
talk
should
to
go
people.
through, emotion regulation, coping with stress, budgeting, all of that. I think that
Yeah,
should be in.
yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely should. Yeah, especially budgeting, because like we were saying, like, countless times, like we're not necessarily, as people, I don't think we're necessarily good as with money. As neurodivergent people, that it's proven that we spend more, and also you got like people need to spend more in order to just live a basic life, like not a basic
Mm.
life, but you know what I mean, just have the bare minimum of having food and the basic needs met.
But
You know what I mean?
yeah, but that's the gateway to a bigger debate, which is, and it's something that I don't think we've touched on yet, which is the risk involved in wanting to have any sort of business. It's
Mm,
leaving the life that, again, it's that this has to be a shirt. This is the check your privilege thing. There are people with lives that aren't as everybody has like, but when it comes to actually pounds, shillings, and pence, there are people that have had better starts than others. And for me, it's about the wanting to it's value. It's for me wanting to do something and accessing the support to do it. But it's
mm,
that feeling of, no, I earned that. No, I could potentially put things away. I could go on that holiday. I could do that thing. Because you're right, everything has went up. And it's a case of um trying to make the step, make the leap, make the jump to
yeah.
give yourself the chance, and that's all it is. It's a chance until it works. And then when it works, it's a risk that wonderful to take because it works. But at this stage, people that are engaging with us are on the sort of first
And you
steps,
can do
two
your SWOT
steps. Yeah. So
Well, it's
yeah.
it.
Hmm?
then you can do your SWOT analysis.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
because it
so
goes into like it's you kind of touch on it in a way, but like it with all of this, the support and with setting up your own business or being part-time and trying to set it up whilst
mm,
doing other jobs, which
Mm.
is just probably the story of my life, always having side projects, um is
Request.
it's so difficult,
Mm.
and it's so, and you're
Yeah.
like, and you kind of want it to work, but then you like, I remember being working full time and trying to do art, but then not really doing art, but then also selling like stuff on Etsy, vintage stuff, secondhand wares. Obviously, half of them are still behind me. Um, but like you just get so tired from the normal job
Mm.
that you then put pressure on yourself that, oh, actually I'm not making it work, but I really do want to work for myself. But how do you work for yourself?
Yeah.
yeah, for me, that was the rotary shop thing. I know I've said it a lot, but it's true. Like for me, I'm cocooned in I'm not as happy with my life as I could be. I want to do different things. And we have a pop-up shop that we have done because it's 2025. And you see people, and this isn't just like the sort of quasi semi-middle class person going, oh, let's help people. You see people and it's just like they're not um thriving. They're not, and
Mm,
for some people, it's not a charity shop. It's people doing their Christmas shopping. And yes, it's for charity, and yes, it's all stuff that's been donated. But you realize that if you have a society that doesn't have the national living wage, that
Mm.
the disparity between folks that are doing as well as they can be and folks that have slipped through the net is
Growing.
huge. And that's why, in terms of,
Shout out the ragged trousered philanthropists.
yeah, yes. But that's why I want to do business because I just think people should have access to the relevant and correct support. When I was there, I met an autism support officer person, and he's like, which 2 years ago, he was a fairly nice guy, but I was just like, why do you exist? um, couldn't we actually get the support for ourselves? But he actually said, I'm just working in Dumfries. They've offered me the post for Dumfries and Galloway, but financially it's not as viable for me. And I'm just like, well,
Was it?
how does that work? How does that work? How do you fill your day?
Mm.
And to his credit, he said there are people in this shop that I have supported that I see, and they're only just becoming functional human beings. Because it's if you sit at home and shut the world away and have that chat, circle back to the original tangent. Am I neurodivergent? Am I not? Am I for this world? Am I not? And
Mm.
so many people turn to closing themselves away or some other stimuli that just passes the time. But there isn't that correct vital support, which is now there in a business context because conversations have happened and so say have listened.
Which is peer to peer,
Hmm.
in my opinion,
Mhm.
is that's where you connect. Because if that's where you are, if you're in that point where you're not really leaving your house, um, you need to connect with people that are near there and or have been there.
Yeah.
And because you can only jump so far up the ladder.
Mm.
But I think that's also it, isn't it? It's not, it doesn't even have to be as daunting as a jump. It's 1% different each day.
Steps in it.
That's it, isn't it? You don't, even if in whatever stage of life that you are, and even if you're, from a business person watching this and wanting it to relate to business, or
Mm.
just personal, wanting it to relate to personal growth and stuff like that, you don't have to do 10,000 things each day. You
Mm.
just have to do one thing you didn't do the day before, and even then, that one thing can still be the one thing for like a month, 2 months, but it's still better than what you would have been the month and a half ago. And then when you have the energy, you put in another percentage. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's looking at it from a bigger picture, but also a small picture.
But also, like, we were there for 4 days, and that person came in every day after that because it was the confidence thing of these people get it.
Yeah,
Oh,
human
Just,
connection, isn't it?
yeah, just that little bit of
Yeah.
how it's that horrible, like, retail thing of being nice. And I say horrible because we're given a script. It's like, hello, how are you? But if you do it genuinely and authentically, just that power of hello, you exist, I exist
Mm.
as well. That is like the thread that people
Yeah.
go, oh, I can come back here
And you
and
find that a lot of people, like I had, having worked in retail for 5 years, or over 5 years, but for one particular shop for 5 years,
mm,
I had customers coming back wanting to set me up with their nieces and not nieces, nephews, and like their sons. Like it was like, that's really sweet, but I'm okay, thanks. But like they'd come back, have that, the human
yeah.
connection of, there's a person here that I can talk to
mm,
and spend money at the same time.
I
But like
think it's
it, you know,
amazing how, those little gestures. Like, I remember, so when I worked in McDonald's, there was one person came in and I noticed they were quite anxious. They came in, they had like gloves on. Um, I noticed they had gloves on, and then just I put their change on their tray instead of putting it in their hand because I was like, I can see you're uncomfortable with that. And without any words passing, like they made eye contact and they were crying because
mm,
of the connection of that, the anxiety and then the being understood. And like I've had that experience a lot as well when people have
mm,
kind of um when you're seen, there's something special about that.
yeah,
yeah. And it's bringing those kind of moments, and like, and bringing go to the places where you get those moments, and bringing it
Mm.
into your life, which is how
Find your
you build
tribe.
your. Yeah, it's finding your tribe, isn't it? For sure.
And I think for me, like DBT has been very kind of important in kind of like building like the whole philosophy of
What's
DBT is
DPT?
DBT,
DB.
dialectical behavior therapy. So the whole philosophy of that is build a life worth living.
Yeah,
Which I like to change to create a life worth living. Um,
yeah,
but it's like a life that is experienced as worth living. So
mm,
only you get to measure that, like other people don't get to measure that.
mm,
Um, you know,
How do
and
you like, but then that's also a point to start off from as well. Like, how do you go about creating a life that you want to live? Like, I know how I personally do it. I know that I use Pinterest a lot, and like it's for me, I'm really aesthetic. Being a photographer and artist, like I steal from images, and I'm like, I want those moments in my life, so I will build up to those moments. How do you two like? How would you go about creating the life that you want to live or the person you
Cat,
want to become?
cat.
for me, I need outside time. I know that, so
Mm.
I do at least one thing with horses every week. I do a dog walk every day, and they are probably my only non-negotiables. I have no other kind of routines that I stick to. Because there is no kind of internal system of routine in my
Yeah.
brain. Like I have to do everything consciously. Um, but yeah, so I know that I like to read,
Mm.
even if it's just for 5 minutes, like before bed. Um, and I like to kind of make a difference in people's lives. You know, like one of my things that I live by is like, how can I be the presence of love in this moment?
I
Uh,
like that. Yeah.
and also, yeah, the authenticity. Like I have my daily mantra, which is I am safe, whole, complete, self-actualized, and authentic. So like I'm building towards being self-actualized, and I have a tattoo of it actually. On Mani Padme Hung, which is all about being the best, not best, like the most effective, most kind of helpful version of yourself in every moment that
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can. So that's really important to me.
You think that's like about that's then creating it's those moments, isn't it? Moments in nature,
Mm.
moments reading the book, and it's then the feeling that
Yeah, and
gives you.
it's also kind of like there's in Buddhism there's the concept of a bodhisattva. And so a bodhisattva is you're attempting to become more enlightened as you go through
Yeah.
life. And then also it's a commitment that like if you become enlightened, then you will continue reincarnating.
Ah,
Until all living beings have achieved enlightenment. So you're like not just going to go into nirvana, you're going to keep coming back to help everyone else. And it's that kind of commitment every day to there's a meditation practice that I do which is called loving kindness meditation or the metta practice, where the traditional version, I mean there's a lot of kind of, I'm not going to say, well, yeah, a lot of kind of more accessible versions that have been made for people that aren't, you know, don't do as much meditating. But the traditional version, um, you breathe in the suffering of the world basically, and then you transmute it and breathe out peace. So it's like, I
a
mean,
lot to then be putting on people's plates.
technically you set up a mirror, which transmutes all the energy, but it's a bit
Yeah,
it's
but
an
then like for you to then have to draw in the negativity of like all the suffering in the world.
you don't allow that into your body, like you set up like an energetic mirror, and then you kind of draw it in there, and then that
Oh, okay.
set it back out. So it's the
You
same,
know,
it's
mm,
just
I
Yeah.
think I think I wanted Cat to go first there because for me it's a completely different
um
process.
but it's that
Yeah.
sorry, just before you go.
No,
Uh,
no, no.
yeah, so basically you send love towards someone that you love, because that will bring up those feelings, and then so you do that, and then you send love to someone that you're maybe um feeling different about, or maybe a little bit difficult about,
Mm.
um and then you send love to yourself, and it's that practice of like actually I'm committed to being, you know, in union as much as possible with
Mm.
humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me it's a complete. I wanted Cat to go first there because it's a completely different process for me. Although I fully respect the process, it's just not my process. I think if I was to take time out of my day to take on other people's mess, then that would be a complete waste
It's
of.
literally my job, to be fair. Like,
No, I know, but I'm
Yeah.
just, well, I mean, it's sort of,
I help people to hold space for the mess, and
yeah.
then I help
Well, I
put the
mean,
mess into
I,
files. Yeah.
I mean, you could argue in that you
Psychological.
could, yeah, you, you could argue in the third sector when it comes to sort of strategic things that sort of might, but yeah, it's part of my day because it's a meeting and it's a document and it's something I can see. But I said, for me, I mean, the learning process has been about, you mean, you talk about authenticity. And I haven't been not authentic. I just haven't felt as if I've been doing what I'm here to do.
Hmm.
So for me, just going back into this and into We Speak Tangent and into the Nen or into things, this is what I feel that I can do.
Hmm.
This isn't me trying to mask and say, I can do this, it's fine. I can do this, it's fine.
Mm.
I know when I wake up that I can do this. Um, I
Pretty
mean,
cool, eh?
but it makes such a difference because I mean,
Hmm.
my story with any form of broadcasting or business support or whatever it is my family told me, well, my dad, who is a wonderful spiritual human being, but I remember him saying like, get into broadcasting, but it's a hobby. Like the
Yeah.
likelihood of you um doing this and being reimbursed for it is minute, and that's not because you're not very good. It's because there's a lot of broadcasters and a lot
Mm.
of DJs. Um, so yeah, I went off and I did my sort of third secretary thing, and then I mean this has only been going for 4 months or something like that. I've only known Kat for probably 6 or 7 months in that. So yeah, Rachel the same. So I think for me it was that it was meeting people, and it was, as I've said, it was meeting. I mean, Kat introduced me to Rachel, and that whole thing was what you do the thing that you're here to do, and you're supported, and oh, wow, great. How can I do that? And that was the authentic thing of I had a dream board, I had something, I showed it to Kat first. Um, it was in Moffat, and then I think we showed it to Rachel. It was a networking thing for me because Kat wanted me to speak to Rachel about strategic level being on a board, so that was fine. And then from that, it was connections and people. And then Rachel said, "Well, I've got this thing. You might want to do it."
Mm.
It's a sort of podcast. I was like, okay, great, broadcasting. Okay, right, this could work, and this hasn't been done before, so this wasn't nothing to do with music, nothing to do with anything other than um, neurodivergence at the front. How do we build it? Yeah, humaning, and how do we build it so that people can access the support? And from that, as I've said in the New Year one, which we've just shot, um, I, I've probably discussed more about my neurodivergence here and more things here than I think I ever have. Has it made me question my
Awesome.
neurodivergence? Yeah. Has it made me question my neurodivergence? Absolutely. You,
Does it? Hang on. So I've got a point. I've got a tangent thought.
good?
With just fill in the brief.
Yeah.
With that, oh god, it's
Mhm.
just slightly gone. Questioning
Bring it
your
back, bring it back.
yeah, questioning your neurodivergent self.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Does that matter? If you like, surely it like to an extent it shouldn't necessarily be about questioning your neurodivergent self because it's you,
Yeah.
and to live your authentic life does the label doesn't necessarily matter. Like obviously it gives you validity and all that side of it,
Mm.
but as long as you then know where you in yourself need support and where the neurodivergent tendencies come in and you're like, actually I kind of struggle with that and like I can support myself, like, oh, I've
Well,
forgotten the point of this question.
Also, remember that the DSM requires that it causes distress. So when you're a successful neurodivergent, you technically don't meet the criteria anymore.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
I
But
think I
also,
can go. Oh,
no,
sorry.
you go. It's fine.
I think I can. I think I could figure out what you were trying to say
Yeah, please
there.
do.
Excellent. Go.
So I think I'll save at this point. Michael going in for the win. I because I'm neurodivergent, my journey changed. Like I haven't had the cat experience. If you look at my
Mhm.
CV, it's not like doctor of this, studier of
Mm.
that. My CV is I went to and I love the school I went to, nothing against it whatsoever, but it was not academic based.
Mm.
There was academics there, and there was the opportunity to do those academic things. But as somebody at the school said, Michael, your journey here is about survival. Like we did not
Like
genuinely,
SAS training.
right? No, but when I went to that school, I was very
Enough.
sick. No. I know. But when I went to that school, I was very sick, and the head teacher was like, "Look, if we get you to 18 and you are on it, that is more than any qualification." Now, that was wonderful for seven
Yeah.
years, 8 years. But if you go into job interviews and they go, or passion-led, voluntary, skill-based things.
Mm.
I remember one it with a television company where I was on a diversity panel, and then somebody planted it in my mind, like, you could work here. Okay. So I went to get the CV and sort of
Mm.
do that. Went for the interview, and they said, "So how are you qualified?" And I went, "Well, I've got this passion and I've got this thing and I can talk a bit." And they're like, "Yeah, but how are you qualified?"
As someone who has worked in TV and been qualified to work in TV, when I
Yeah.
worked in TV, I was the only one who was qualified to work there. Everyone else
Yeah.
wasn't qualified.
But
Yeah.
it got so
Yeah.
heightened.
Mm.
Yeah, it got so heightened that I think the lovely lady there was like, "You didn't get qualified. Sue them. I mean, Go back, do night school, do something." So what I'm saying is my neurodivergent diagnosis slash journey, it's almost all I have. Like there are other things I can talk a bit and do a bit, and I know about music, and that's fine. And I'm in all these
What do
boards,
you
and I'm doing that.
like? What do you get inspired by? Give me five things that you are like that it
Wow.
gives you a bit of like the sparkle.
Um, I
It's five.
I no. I'm in love with the ideas that I have, and I just
Yeah.
think if they do, if I mean professionally, I'm in love with the ideas that I have. There's a reason that I'm involved in all these third sector things. There's a reason now that I'm curtailing the involvement I have with some of these third sector things. It's because they serve a purpose, they make a
Mm.
difference. That's what life's about. It's not about money, it's not about status. It's about, as Kat and you have said, it's about making the difference for people. And that
Mm.
only changes when you run out of money.
Mm.
So it's the case of, right, I might have to think about doing something. Age is a thing. I mean, for me, I'm just like, if I'm not going to try now, then I won't try. And I'll accept this forever, which is why the sort of
Mm.
meeting Rachel and Kat and all of this, it meant so much because my trajectory was I would just go from board to board to board to board to
Yeah.
board to board to board. Fine, done. Thank you.
Mm.
Great. And then you go, well, is this all I can do? I think it should be part of community service. I think people should be able to go into any of these things and communicate and do stuff. But it was also because I had a lot of time. I had a lot of time. I had no worries. I had a lot of time. And
Mm.
actually, was it constructive time? Probably. A lot of things were done, and that was great. But what am I here to do as a human being? So when you said
Yeah.
five things, um, music. Um, I love music. I love the ideas that I have. I love the difference it could make. I'm obsessed with technology, and
Mm. Yeah.
I think friendship is a part of my life now where it wasn't before.
Yeah.
That's the biggest change.
I think it's kind of really interesting.
Is
Um,
it?
no, but I think it really,
Okay.
I think it really is because this is the way that we're different, but we're all similar. And I
Mm.
think as well, like, sometimes taking it back and actually just sitting down and thinking, hang on a minute, like, and do like putting yourself on pressure, like five things that actually
Mm.
bring me a spark of joy, because
Yeah.
I'm in, like we touched on in the New York one, the New Year's one. In the back of my diary, I always write what books I've read that year, the films that I've really enjoyed, and like the music, that songs that I've been ADHD listened to on repeat for like 3 weeks. Currently Idols, just so everyone knows.
Yeah.
Have a yearly playlist, and yeah,
I do.
Yeah, but then this is, and I think this is like, but if you're not conscious of it, and if you do just kind of like,
I love.
yeah, if things
every day I do like 3 things I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
And it's like when you're committed to finding 3 things, it's amazing what you find. Like one day it was just, there was like like it had been raining and there was a blue tit upside down on my window, like drinking the dew off the top of the window, and I'm like, that is beautiful.
Yeah. But
I mean, also, yeah, sorry.
Like if you didn't have yourself saying like, right, what 3 things am I
Yeah.
grateful for, you'd probably just see it and you'd be like, oh,
also,
very
like
cute.
brains
But
naturally have a negative bias. Like your brain will automatically be like, oh, what did I need to be careful of today? What went wrong
magpies.
today? And it is like an actual retraining exercise to be like, no, I want to notice the things that made me happy, the things that made me joyful. Also, Man's Search for Meaning as a book. Amazing.
Also, sorry, just while Amelia writes that down, I think to be in a space where I'm personally happier now, it's part fight or flight, survival. What are you going to do with your life? But it's also to be able to be in a personal space where I'm a lot happier than I was. That gives you permission to actually want to willingly make yourself uncomfortable by trying the thing that you've always wanted to try, or doing that thing.
I literally have a painting which is called Your Vibe Finds Your Tribe.
Yeah, you were saying, talk about that. Another
my favorite kind of quotes or whatever.
Yeah.
It turns it around. It's like not, oh, at some point I'll find some people that have the vibe that I like. It's like, no, actually I have to have the vibe and then the people will come. Yeah. Which is cool.
Yeah. I think it is really interesting though, because it is also, I don't know, as someone who is an artist and who is constantly devouring things that I find inspiring to fuel me, I find it interesting to see what everyone else is like.
I mean, for me, it's words, because like I'm a poet, and I connect with a lot of other poets on Instagram, and we all write dark poetry and read each other's stuff. And like I find so much solace in words that touch me emotionally, and I can see my experience in the words of someone else, and that makes me feel so connected. And like a lot of us are actually really good friends and message every day now, and it's really.
Are they people that you've not met in real life, but you're Instagram friends? I love that. I've got a few of them, and it's really like, it's weird, but it's really cool.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we are approaching the hour mark.
Oh goodness!
Just to make everyone aware, we are on 57 minutes.
Oh, very good.
And we don't have any Frangipane bakeries eats to let everyone know what our favourites.
It's the sticky fig flapjack, but it's now January in listening time, not in recording time. So
you can still have sticky fig.
That's true. You can
in February, but
time of the year. Yes, 100%.
I think Epigresh to Stollen now. I mean, Frangipane are making Stollen.
I need to get the Stollen.
I will have by
It's now available to buy. Yes.
By 2025, I
will won't be available to buy when this goes out, but I'm sure I've enjoyed it over Christmas.
I will have eaten some. Some next year.
Pre-order now.
Yeah.
So
I'm just thinking, is there anything we haven't checked off? We've discussed how to create a life for oneself. We've discussed questioning. And we haven't, Kat, have you questioned your neurodivergence? I don't think we've actually ticked that off. I went on a big sort of 20-minute, am I? But I mean, how have you ever questioned your ND-ness?
Yes, when I first thought of it and I had my deep dive and I read it. I mean, I read everything. I mean, this was back in MSN group days, you know, the times that you won't remember.
Bebo and MySpace and fax machines and Amstrads. Yes.
Yeah. We're Amstrad.
We actually have Grew a little.
We do. It had a little
We had a
screen
Spectrum. We had a
Yeah,
Spectrum with its
God.
all-terrain vehicle on the Spectrum. Best game ever.
of
Um,
all the people to put like old things, Amelia. I didn't think it would be you.
I wouldn't like an Amstrad. I'm fine with a typewriter.
Okay.
Amsterdam's too modern for
Yeah, well, no,
me.
no.
Um,
I sound like my dad then.
A Singer sewing machine desk.
Yeah, that's cat.
but,
I know, I know.
I did my deep dive research, and yeah, I was kind of like, yeah, that fits for me. That fits for me as well. But I think because of the kind of space I was in at the time, I was more focused on where my partner was than where I was. But I think I got a lot of validation from like the meeting that we had, the diagnosis meeting, when we were discussing stuff, and like she would ask a question and I would be like, yeah, this is what she's saying is this, because when you
Mm.
don't automatically understand something and you have to work it out by kind of comparing it to how other people have behaved when they've said they felt this way. Um, and then and then I saw the woman that diagnosed us was just like, yeah, you know that you think like that too. And I was like, yes, after 4 hours, I have seen that I also think the way that we are discussing. But yeah, and then I think it kind of I read a lot and it all just clicked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't really question it anymore. But yeah, I think in terms of whether it's going to be not acceptable, but like whether I fit enough for other people to think that I fit, I question that. But that's kind of just life for me. No, I question whether I am, qualified to take up a lot of spaces.
That's the thing. It's not a driving test. Do you know what I mean? Most people pass their test at 17 or 21 or whatever and go, okay, I can drive now until I'm about 60. If anything happens. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like it's I mean,
60.
no, but you know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, I can drive, like I don't have to get the bus anymore. I can drive, that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, okay. But I think now because everything's changing, spectrum, people, I mean, I've been in
I
cafes
think
where
like we
people,
said earlier, like
yeah,
it's my own unique blend
mm,
of a lot of different things.
yeah.
And, I know how my mind works and I'm still learning about how my mind works.
Mm.
I do a lot of kind of therapy work and practicing and reflecting and journaling and kind of, I have a routine to make my inner community function together. It's complicated, but
Yeah.
that's okay.
I think that's also it as well, isn't it? With all of what we've been discussing. A leaf's just fallen from that tree. That's nice.
Joyful.
Tree, plant. Sorry, I'm in a jungle. um, in all of it, it's knowing that everyone else is on a similar journey. It just looks slightly different. We're all in different
Mm.
fonts, but we're writing the same kind of thing. Like everyone needs to do the work on themselves. Everyone needs to discover, and you're never going to get to the end. Like the end's when you snuff it. Like you should always constantly be learning. And
You've went from nice and innocent to none of us get out of this alive. We're,
no,
we're all on different fonts, but
memento mori.
writing the same thing.
You just go from Marcus Aurelius. But that is
Yeah,
it.
you're right.
It is, everyone should always be on a learning curve, and it's the people who are all like, oh no, I already know it all.
Yeah,
They're the ones
I
you
think
should be listening to.
I'm lucky from being, a horsey kid from the age of 9, where the emphasis is always no one knows everything.
Yeah.
You're always learning, and that's the fun of it. That's kind of the point.
It's the main point.
And
Oh, sorry, I just got
Sorry.
that. Well done, well
Yeah.
done. Yeah.
That's quick. That was
Sorry,
trying to really
Very
quickly
nice.
think.
we've been here for hours. I just got okay, great. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like the work I do with horses and the work I do with people. It's all about your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your horse, your relationship with everyone that you interact with, and that's always different, And I think that's part of what happens when you start to know yourself better. You start to notice, oh, that aspect of myself feels comfortable with that other person, which might be different to with another set of people, and that becomes information that then informs you on your further journey.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of that. Forget my 20-minute am I? Just use that one.
No, it's good. That rounds it up nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I think we've jolly well kicked that. Yeah, we've kicked that down the road very well. I mean, I always say with the sort of tangenty ones, like I didn't expect that we would get the hour out of that. Very much like the New Year thing. Like, what do you do at New Year? I sleep through it or I work. Like, end, done. But I think
Or an
it's.
hour later, yeah.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm very
But yeah,
surprised that
like we
did
will
that.
all journey on, and hopefully together, in terms of listeners rather than us, we will journey on together. And yeah, hopefully meet some of the listeners soon.
Absolutely.
And join in the Facebook group, the
Yes, do join the Facebook group.
/groups/ND entrepreneurs.
Yes, well
Is that
done.
right?
It'll
I'll put
be
it
in the show notes.
In the
Yes.
show
I'll type it away, don't worry.
Just don't use P. You'll be fine.
Also leave us a voice note because we love them.
Yeah.
You'll have heard they will have heard the first voice note episode by now, won't they?
Nope.
Probably. No.
Oh,
No.
yes.
Right,
Yes.
Oh, by now.
by listening time, not
This is
recording.
like Graham Norton. This is terrible.
This is very
Yes,
different.
they would have.
Mm.
I do struggle with when I'm putting. I've edited them. They're
Just
on.
nod, Amelia.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
nod.
yeah. It's all
There
good.
is we will be reacting to voice notes. We have recorded one. You will hear it at some point.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you
Yeah.
haven't heard it, you will hear it. It's all good.
And if not, I'll link it at the top of the YouTube thing.
There you go.
Now
Awesome.
that we have all the money, it's time to exit the bag and drive home. Thank you.
How are you? I am in my house.
Yeah.
I
There's
am
no
very
money still.
Oh, yes, so am I. Yes, I thought this was yeah. No, I think, but that's a Cat thing. Like, Cat did have the overlay of the Nen logo, so I'm
I
just.
thought I'd take it.
I know,
Discuss
I
it.
know, but I thought you'd send it round to everybody, so I'm just looking at myself in my house, going, "Oh, yes, you're right. This isn't the glass box." But yeah, as I always say, like hopefully listeners and viewers alike will find all of these useful. Everything that we have recorded that is released, you can go back and watch in a playlist. I think that should be a therapy course, but that's just my own personal opinion. If you want to listen to them all back to back, like some sort
Also,
of
the well-being workshop, the workshops, the focus group workshops will be soon now.
yes.
Yeah.
So it's building.
Catherine.
It's wonderful. And yeah, all the contacts are there. If you just want to eat cake whilst watching this, please do. But yeah, I think we've jolly well kicked this down the road enough, sufficiently. I'm away to
Lord
be.
of the Rings.
Yes,
3 times now.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I'm away to try and be neurotypical now. I'm almost bored with how MD we
Ship
all
is
are.
sailing away,
I
and
know.
then up, there's more. Anyway, yes. Go.
Yeah.
So, thank you for being here, and thank you, producer Amelia. This is the most that we've spoken in about. We're doing well.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you very much indeed for listening, and thank you, folks, for being here. And yes, we shall see you soon.
Yes. Bye, Z's.
Ciao. Thank you for listening to the We Speak Tangent podcast, brought to you by the Neurodivergent Entrepreneurs Network in partnership with South of Scotland Enterprise.